If you're feeling unmotivated and restricted because of your budget, this video is for you. Do you ever miss the person you were before you became hyper aware of your spending and personal finances? Because I definitely did in the beginning, and sometimes I still do. If I'm being honest, budgeting can feel restrictive. It can feel boring, and it can make you feel limited and controlled. Like you can't do anything without checking in or asking your budget for permission first. But here's what I learned on my budgeting journey. Budgeting itself wasn't the problem. The problem was how I was thinking about it. I'm Brianne. I'm a CPA, but I'm not perfect. I'm learning in real time what actually works for me and building systems that help me optimize my money. And I'm also sharing that journey with you so that you can take little bits and pieces and hopefully build a system that works for you as well. One of the first things I learned when I first started budgeting is this: you have to be realistic. Otherwise, you'll fail. I went from swiping my cards aimlessly to creating super tight budgets. And don't get me wrong, those budgets could have worked eventually, but I went from 0 to 100 overnight, or at least tried to. I gave myself a $300 grocery budget when I had already been used to spending sometimes over $450 a month. I gave myself $80 for dining out when I had been used to spending $150 a month. And to be honest, the issue wasn't even the new numbers. The issue was that I had already built habits around spending more. I didn't even know how to spend less yet. And that's something people don't talk about. You literally have to teach yourself how to optimize the money you have. And I don't mean extreme couponing or letting grocery flyers dictate what you buy from the store that week. Although there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about actually looking at what you're spending money on and looking at what you actually use. Because let's be honest, I think we've all been to that point where we're throwing away a bag of spinach at the end of the week because it went bad and we didn't even touch it. Optimization looks like asking yourself questions like these. Am I really going to use this? Can I build meals around what I already have in my fridge and pantry? Instead of saying, no, I can't buy this, you're saying, okay, I can buy this, but I need to plan to actually use it. That's a completely different mindset. Another reason budgeting can feel restrictive is because by the time you realize you've overspent, it's too late. And then it feels impossible to stay within your budget because it is. This is why you need to do budget check-ins at least weekly, but if weekly feels like too much, at least every 2 weeks. Because tracking gives you the facts. For example, let's say you budget $400 a month for groceries. 2 weeks in, you've already spent $300. You're halfway through the month, put 75% through your grocery budget. And that's not failure just yet, depending on how you proceed. That's your signal to do a fridge or a pantry check-in. What do you already have? What meals can you make using what you already have? This is the time where you can try to figure out how you can stretch that $100. That's not restriction, it's strategy. And sometimes, yeah, you're overspending. But also, sometimes your budget might just be a little bit too low. If you notice month after month that you keep going over in a certain category and you've genuinely tried to adjust your habits to the best of your abilities, then that might be a sign that you need to increase that budget category. And that's okay. I think it's better to increase a category because you've done the work, you've exhausted all your options, and you genuinely realize that the amount that you've put just isn't enough. Let's be real. Before budgeting, money felt unlimited, even though we knew it really wasn't. Before, I never really had to choose between buying one thing and buying another. I just swiped my card and dealt with it later. But once I started tracking, I could see everything, and the numbers don't lie. If I increase my personal spending by $100, I'm likely gonna have to decrease my spending in a different category by $100. You can't add to one category without subtracting from another. And that can feel restrictive, but it's not. It's visibility and prioritization. And I always have to remind myself, the budget isn't fixed forever. Just because I can only afford this amount in a certain category in this season of my life doesn't mean that it'll be like that forever. Income changes, debt changes, and ultimately goals change as time goes on. Your budget is gonna evolve. A lot of people build budgets that look like punishment. No eating out, no hanging out, no fun, no shopping. That's not budgeting. That's financial self-sabotage disguised as discipline. And it's almost impossible to stick to because meanwhile, you see everyone else living their life and having fun with the money that they worked hard for while you're just sitting in your house penny pinching. And it's not because budgeting feels restrictive, it's because you built a prison. A budget should reflect your real life, not some fantasy version of your perfect self. Fun needs a category. Freedom needs structure. Restriction isn't healthy. A healthy budget should feel supportive, clear and flexible, not strict and chaotic. And it shouldn't be this big, difficult, tedious task because it's not rocket science. You should know your bills are covered, know what you can spend guilt-free, and know what your priorities are. If you feel constant restriction from your budget, one of three things is likely happening. Your categories aren't realistic, your income needs to increase, or your priorities just aren't aligned with your spending. That's it. Not willpower, not discipline, not motivation, structure. Budgeting isn't about shrinking your life. It's about choosing it. You don't feel restricted when you say no to something you genuinely don't care about. You feel restricted when you don't know what you care about. If budgeting feels restrictive, don't quit. Adjust it. Make it reflect your real life. And remember, clarity feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. If this helped you reframe your mindset around budgeting, let me know in the comments. And if you want more system-based personal finance content, make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.